Welcome back to Grim and Whim. Before getting into today's episode, I want to make a quick announcement. I am feeling like I need a bit of a break from content creation, so I made the decision I'm going to take just a short 2-week break and then resume uploads at the end of May. And if you're new to Grim and Whim, or if you maybe missed it, I think I've mentioned it in a few videos, but basically, I'm a special education teacher. That's my full-time job. I've been a teacher for 7 years, and I love my job. I love being a teacher. I'm very passionate about education. But that being said, April and May honestly feels like a lifetime for teachers. The end of the school year is just always incredibly hectic. There's usually a lot going on, and honestly, I'm feeling a bit burnt out at the moment. So I'm just going to take a little bit of time and collect myself, finish out the school year strong, and then get back into it. I just feel like it's the best for me. And so I hope that you understand. And without further ado, let's dive into some true scary stories. The first story is titled, "Whatever You Do, Don't Call It by Its Name." My friends and I were hanging out at the park after dark, smoking some Mary J. Everything was going just fine and dandy until the topic of folk tales and such came up. We were talking about Bigfoot, Mothman, etc. I decided to bring up a couple of creatures from indigenous mythology. I don't even want to type out the name at this point because I learned last night that saying their name can summon them, and my friends and I refer to it now as a Winnebago to avoid any consequences. Talking about such creatures at a park after sundown was a stupid decision. I can't say for sure that it was what I thought it was, but it was terrifying either way. Shortly after we brought it up, the coyotes in the woods surrounding the park started going insane. I mean, you could hear them running around, howling, and just going crazy. It made us uneasy for sure, but none of us were really worried just yet. We changed the subject and kept trying to chill despite the noise. However, the coyotes were soon drowned out by some kind of wail. We had no idea what it was, but it wasn't human. We knew that much. It was the kind of noise that chilled you to the bone, and we just knew that something was horribly wrong. It was about then that we realized we effed up. We're not complete and total idiots. We know what to do if you ever encounter something like this, but it doesn't mean I wasn't terrified. We knew we had to get out of there, but we couldn't just run for it. That would be a mistake. Basically, the advice we had been given was, if you heard something, no, you didn't. And you don't act like you did. Don't run, walk. Don't talk about it, just act calm and change the subject. So that's what we did. We did our best to walk calmly to my car. By the way, we had stopped smoking long before this point, so I was okay to drive. The wailing, however, only continued to get louder. It's really hard to keep a conversation about TikTok or whatever we talked about on the walk over. I don't even remember. The walk wasn't that short either. As we started to approach the car, I started to hear a drum beat. Just the single hit of a hand drum. There wasn't anything around that I could see that could be playing music, not even another car. Nothing visible was in sight to explain any of what we had just heard. Just the wind moving through the trees, gusting faster and faster. We managed to get in the car and out of the park. The wailing slowly but eventually faded out. When I thought we were at a great enough distance, I brought up the drum beats and how much they freaked me out. As we were talking, we slowly started to hear the scream again. This is when we promptly agreed to shut the hell up, and none of us spoke a word for the rest of the night. The next story is titled, The Shadowy Figure on the Beach. This is an account of a story experienced by my parents. I've adapted my mother's words as best as I could to share this story with you. It's worth noting that my father is extremely reluctant to talk about this event. He visibly feels uncomfortable recalling it. So I'll leave you with my mother's words. Approximately 20 years ago, my ex-husband and I had the opportunity to see a creature that was not of this world. This happened during a trip where we were staying at the back of a hotel with a camping area. The event itself occurred on the beach early in the evening of a full moon day. Despite the dim light, it was possible to see the silhouettes of people nearby, sitting on the beach sand just like us. Until that moment, we didn't know what it was, and I understand that it's hard to believe in the existence of something like that. My ex-husband and I were very surprised as this creature floated in front of us after stopping in a strange manner a few meters away on the beach sand where there were other people talking and enjoying the early evening. It approached us with a strange gait, stopped robotically, and we stopped talking to observe it. It was quite tall and was dressed in a black overcoat that partially covered its face, which was very unusual because we were in a tropical place. It came so close that I was expecting some communication, a greeting, a good evening, but as if it had heard my thoughts, it looked at us over its shoulder in a sinister manner and then turned its gaze back to the sea. But I didn't feel fear, just curiosity. A few minutes later, it slid over the sea, and what caught our attention was that we couldn't see its feet. It floated at a significant speed. I didn't divert my gaze to the region of its feet because I could only see the hem of the overcoat over the edge of the sea. When this creature disappeared into the darkness of the beach, since there were no other lodgings beyond that point, my ex-husband ran after it. He didn't accept what he saw because he was an atheist and agnostic. I yelled for him to come back, and he returned without accepting what he had witnessed. And I just looked at the other people who were there to see if they also showed astonishment. From their naturalness, I realized that the merit of seeing that creature was only ours. The final story is titled, Graveyard Shift. I live in a historic part of upstate New York, and it has a lot of places that people like myself like to visit that are abandoned, spooky, or off limits. In my hometown, there are 2 large cemeteries that everyone and their brother has gone into at night one time or another. We have one, though, that is infamous. Cults flock there, townies go there to have sex or drink, etc. This cemetery carries felony trespassing if caught by the police. Tons of rumors of ghosts, demons, mental patients from the 1920s that still roam the 22 acres of rolling hills. Some say that Satan himself hangs out there just to scare dumb townies. There is a 1.5 mile walk from the road back through trees on gravel before you even get to see the cemetery itself. And along the road are mausoleums that wannabe witches and Satanists like to light candles in order to rebel against society and their parents. This all took place in 2009. I did my research on this place because I had heard so many rumors and wanted to see them for myself. So I convinced my then girlfriend Lindsay and some of our friends to venture in. So we planned for a Saturday night to park our car in a neighborhood and walk a bit to the road and then walk in around the gates from the woods. That Friday, I was at a party with my friend Kevin, who I was telling my plan to, and he listened to my zeal. But as I kept talking, he started to get this really worried look on his face. I finally asked, "What is wrong?" And he told me about 10 years prior, he and some friends went in there to party, get high, drink, etc., and they made it to the center of the cemetery, and it was all overgrown at the time. They made a fire and started doing their thing. He and another guy passed out and were woken up to men in hoods starting to slit their throats. He recalls kicking one guy and taking his knife. The hilt was made out of animal bone, and he shoved the other guy hard into some brush and picked his friend up who was alive. They ran to the road while being chased by at least 6 others, and as they made it to the road, a state trooper was passing by. They surrendered themselves to the cop, and the cop revealed to them that there was indeed a cult living in there that they were after. They had killed at least 3 people over the past couple of years. And as they talked with the cop, he told my friend and his buddy that if they ever found themselves in the woods and heard animal noises or any non-human noises that weren't quite right, to leave immediately because it's people who don't want to tip you off. The cop gave them a ride to their car and let them go because of how badly they were shaken up. So Kevin cautions me and tells me to be super careful if I were to go through with my plan. So I ended up going anyway. My logic was that in 1999, there wasn't a mass cult living there, and in 2009, I would be armed with some friends. So we end up going, and we get to the main trail, and my girlfriend and her friend Sarah are in the middle, and me and my buddy John are in the front, and 2 others are in the back. We jumped a few times because we'd see a shadow run here, or if we stopped, we could see shadows running between trees, which I wasn't sure of to begin with. We get to the last part of the trail, and we all start talking when we heard a loud whistle come deep from inside the right side of the woods, followed by a similar whistle from the left. As we walked, more whistles ahead and behind us began ringing out. We stop, and my friend John starts questioning me and telling me how close we are to this place. And I told him, those aren't ghosts or animals. I told him that it's people and they aren't trying to tip us off to their intentions. He starts to really give me some static, and my girlfriend starts to back me up. I urge him to turn back and forget this whole thing, but he starts walking ahead, and we all hear them whistle out again, but a little closer. He came back to the group and said that he saw someone in a hood. And I said, let's leave now, quietly but quickly. So we started to lightly jog to the road, and we didn't cut through the woods but ran right out onto the road and walked back to the car. Out of all the research I did for that place, the best advice I got was from my friend that honestly ended up saving mine and my friends' lives. I don't know what would have happened if those people had caught up to us. Thank you so much for joining me. It's goodbye for now, but I hope to haunt you again soon.